Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
To be successful, you have to have your heart in your business and your business in your heart. That's a quote by Thomas Watson Jr. Time is precious, time is money. And this is a time for Money Talk on ATN Business today on Atlantic Television Network. Good day, viewers, and welcome to a fresh episode of ATN Business on Atlantic Television right here in the city of Port Harcourt. This is the network's medium of bringing the happenings in the economic sector of the society to our discerning viewers. This program is aimed at bringing to the doorstep of viewers the business, financial, and economic activities from all strata of society. Its delivery is accentuated through the various stock exchanges across the world, news about government economic activities, private sector business activities, laced with expert opinions, stakeholders analysis, and correspondence reports. By the end of the show, you can be rest assured of being informed accurately of financial activities around the world. I am your host, Wendy Aguma. Headlines: FG's 7.2 billion naira project face uncertainty. Experts urge FG to diversify for economic growth. Powell signals possible rate cuts in September. Stimulus measures unchanged despite slowdown. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we will out the details. Don't go anywhere.
From the line with the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Welcome back. Now let's go into market reports, local and international business news for today. Federal government's plan to complete 2 deep sea ports, Ibom and Badagry, at an estimated cost of $7.2 billion is facing uncertainty. Despite approvals and announcements, stakeholders express frustration over the lack of progress on this critical infrastructure project. The Ibom deep sea port in Akwa Ibom State, estimated to cost $4.6 billion, received approval for its first phase in December 2020, with an expected 300,000 jobs to be generated upon completion. However, the project's slow pace raised concerns about the government's commitment to seeing it through. Similarly, the Badagry Deep Sea Port project in Lagos State, estimated at $2.59 billion, was announced to commence in June 2022, but its status remains unclear. Stakeholders argue that the economy needs smart ports, not multiple deep sea ports, and emphasize the importance of integrated evacuation, logistics, and transport policy. Industry experts, including Captain Tajuddin Alao and Captain Adewale Ishola, point to the challenges of capital-intensive projects, political interest, and the need for a clear transport policy. They stress that investors will not show interest if the government is not serious about completing this project. COSCO Shipping Company has made a significant move to boost cargo movement by rail in Nigeria. The company recently transported agricultural produce from Kano to Lagos Ports Complex Apapa by rail for export. The first batch of containers departed Dala Inland Dry Port in Kano on July 7, 2024 and arrived in Apapa on July 17th. This successful transaction demonstrates the potential of rail transport in facilitating trade and economic growth. The collaborative effort of COSCO Shipping, Nigerian Railway Corporation, and Temerity International experts made this achievement possible. Stakeholders have commended the initiative, emphasizing the need for stronger collaboration and urgent attention for the Federal Ministry of Transportation. According to Michael Echezona, head of logistics at COSCO Shipping Nigeria, this development will boost investors' confidence in Nigeria's rail option and logistics supply chain system. He also stressed the need for a stronger collaboration to fast-track the standard gauge line, which will resuscitate the Nigerian economy and position the country as a regional economic hub. The introduction of rail cargo movement from the north is poised to revolutionize the nation's transportation landscape. It will facilitate international trade, diversify the economy, and generate foreign exchange through non-oil exports. Banks and financial institutions in Nigeria will be closed on Thursday, August 1st, 2024, as a precautionary measure amid the planned hunger strike and protest across the country. Although no official announcements were made, bank employees confirmed that they have been advised not to report for work on Thursday, citing concerns about potential violence and targeting of financial institutions during the previous strikes. Some banks and financial institutions such as Leadway Pensure and Meristem Securities Limited have notified their customers of closure on Thursday and Friday, advising them to use digital channels for transactions. The president of the National Union of Banks, Insurance and Financial Institution Employees, Anthony Abakpa, stated that banks will monitor the situation closely and seek approval from the Central Bank of Nigeria before closing operations. The closure are precautionary measures to ensure the safety of employees and customers amid the uncertainty surrounding the protest. The federal government have been advised to focus on growing beyond the banking sector to achieve its projected $1 trillion economy. According to Choke Ike, Group Manager of Afrivest, while recapitalization of banks is necessary, it is not enough to drive economic growth alone. Ike emphasized the need for human capital development, citing examples of countries like Mexico, Indonesia, and Turkey, which have achieved higher GDP per capita and human capital indices through investing in their people. Central Bank of Nigeria has committed to reporting the government's targets, working closely with banks to review their capital plans and ensure a successful exercise. Additionally, Taiwo Oyedele, chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, highlighted the need for fiscal discipline, revenue growth, and competitiveness to achieve a $1 trillion economy. Oyedele stressed the importance of a functional banking sector, capital markets, and consistent policies, as well as optimizing government assets, reforming government-owned enterprises, and exploiting solid minerals and natural resources to increase revenue. The National Assembly has increased the threshold of the Central Bank of Nigeria's Ways and Means Advance to the federal government from 5% to 10% of the previous year's revenue. This move was opposed by the organized private sector and opposition parties, who argued that it could lead to increased borrowing and inflation. The increase was achieved through the passage of an amendment bill sponsored by the Senate leader, Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, which aims to help the government meet its immediate and future obligations. However, some senators argued that the 15% requested should be reduced to 10% to ensure fiscal discipline. The National Assembly also rescinded and reenacted the 2024 Appropriation Act through an amendment bill, which was necessitated by observations made by the Directorate of Legal Services of the National Assembly. Experts have expressed mixed views on the increase, with some arguing that it could lead to increased inflation and borrowing, while others see it as a realistic and more tolerable than the previous administration's ways and means spending. The electricity subsidy obligation of the federal government rose from $252.76 billion $252.76 billion naira to 633.30 billion naira in the first quarter of 2024, a report by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has disclosed. The NERC said the electricity subsidies skyrocketed to 221.10 billion naira per month in the first 3 months of 2024 from 84.25 billion naira in the last quarter of 2023. NERC revealed that the increase was largely attributable to the government's policy to harmonize the exchange rates, while also issuing a policy directive that end-user customer tariffs remain at the rates that came into effect in December 2022. The absence of cost-reflective tariff was said to have caused the federal government to undertake to cover the resultant gap between the cost-reflective and allowed tariff in the form of tariff subsidies. For ease of administration, the subsidy is only applied to the generation costs payable by DISCOs to NBET at sources in the form of DISCO's remittable obligation. The DRO adjusted invoice from NBET to the DISCOs was set to be 65.96 billion naira, while the total remittance made was 65.52 billion naira, which translates to a 99.33% remittance performance. Comparatively, in 2023 fourth quarter, the minimum remittance obligation adjusted invoice from NBET to DISCOs was 223.32 billion naira, and the total remittance was 156.40 billion naira, which translated to a 69.92% remittance performance. The International Monetary Fund has warned the Nigerian government to remove what it called implicit energy subsidies, stating that the subsidies would guzzle 3% of the nation's gross domestic product in 2024. As Nigerians agitate for the reversal of the Band A tariff to 68 naira per kilowatt, the IMF submitted that the tariff adjustment will help reduce expenditure on subsidies by 0.1% of gross domestic product, while continuing to provide relief to the poor, particularly in rural areas. The Nigerian exchange continued its bearish trend for the third consecutive day, with investors losing 32 billion naira to losses suffered by Berger, Cortex, and Nigerian Aviation Handling Company. The company shares dipped 10% each, closing at 13.50 naira, 5.13 naira, and 35.10 naira respectively. At the close of trading on Wednesday, the all-share index and market capitalization dipped by 0.06% to 97,774.22 and 55.51 trillion naira respectively, bringing the year-to-date loss to 31.70% and a total of 1,838,183,450 units of shares were traded in 10,847 deals valued at 23.11 billion naira. The market breadth closed negative, with 27 equities gaining and 29 equities losing. Industrial and Medical Gases Nigeria, University Press, and Veritas Capital Assurance PLC led the gainers chart, while gaining 10% to close at 14.30 naira, 2.42 naira, and 0.99 naira respectively. It was a significant improvement in trading activity, with a 360% increase in volume, 189% increase in turnover, and a 4% rise